Hello, my name is Jeff Lestz. I'm the CEO of Genistar, and welcome to our third episode of Financial Freedom for All. And today, we're going to be talking about young money and the relationship that young people have with money. You know, it's amazing. In school, we go through 14,000 hours of education, and they teach us how to dissect a frog. They teach us algebra. And the majority of the time, we never, ever use that once we get out of school. And so I'm really glad to have you guys here today. I wanted to hear it directly out of the mouths of some Gen Z type young people, okay, about money, because this is something that oftentimes we don't talk about. And, you know, I'm interested in really helping educate a whole new generation about money. And I remember when I was your age, that I was trying to figure out this whole mystery of money. And just, I guess maybe my first question, in fact, I'd like to, Harvey, if it's okay, start with you. What's your age right now?
17.
17. I think I have a pair of shoes as old as you, okay? But Harvey, first of all, did you get any education in school about money?
Very, very briefly. I'm more taught off of like my mum and my dad about my money, but it's quite a sensitive topic. So
yeah,
no one's really too open about it. No one's really wanting to tell people how much they make.
Yeah,
how to actually start making money. So it's quite difficult to talk about.
Yeah, so it's almost like those subjects like don't talk about it because it's private, you know, or something. So what would you say that your relationship is, George, with money?
Sensible, I'd like to say. As you had my dad on the podcast on Monday.
Yeah.
And he, was talking about how he empowered his kids to deal with their finances sensibly. So like we used to value money from a young age. We did get pocket money, but it would be for doing chores, and we had a chore list. And if we didn't complete the chore list, we wouldn't get any of our money. So we had a sense of value from a young age, for sure. So I think it has definitely come, as Harvey said, from our parents and not from education.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, Harvey. Just by the way, this podcast is going to be interactive here, where I want you guys to ask me some questions, okay? But I want to ask you some questions also. Just curious, have you ever felt pressure to like keep up with your friends? We used to call it keep up with the Joneses. You know, they get a new pair of trainers. You know, you have to get a new pair of trainers. They get a new, whatever the brands are. Okay, have you ever felt that?
In a sense, yeah, because you want to keep up with the trends. You want to make yourself look cool. You want to stand out from everyone, but you also want to fit in.
Yeah.
But on the money aspect side of things, I would say no.
Yeah.
More because me personally, I'm not too fussed about trends, but
it almost sounds like that you know your own person and you're comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. So someone's got the newest, coolest, whatever it is, okay, you don't have to try to keep up with them because you're not really there to try to impress them. You know, you can tell you're real friends when they don't judge you based on how much money you make and what you got.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's also a lot of sense of jealousy with people my age. That's why a lot of them are sensitive about money.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to tell anyone that their mum might be broke or their mum might be really rich.
Yeah.
They don't really want to let anyone know their personal financial status.
Yeah, it's either embarrassing because you don't have enough, or if you talk about how much you got, then it could come off as being prideful.
Yeah.
And so it's almost, let's just avoid the discussion, don't you think?
I mean, people my age use the term daddy's money.
Daddy's
money.
Yeah.
If you ponce off of your dad, almost, where everything that you buy is not earned by yourself, it's all earned by your parents' hard work, and then people flexing things that they have that they haven't personally bought.
Yeah. And what do you think today, especially for teens, is probably the biggest financial challenge that you have?
Tough question.
Yeah, I would say probably saving money,
Okay.
because it is quite difficult to save money when,
Yeah.
well, my part-time job doesn't obviously pay too well, because I'm obviously learning and studying
Sure.
as well as having a part-time
Sure.
job. So I'm not making millions every single month, making a couple £100. So it's quite,
Right.
as much as I don't have any outgoings, it's quite difficult to save
Yeah,
the
of
money,
course.
because
Yeah.
like you said, you do want to keep up with what everyone else is buying. You want
Yeah.
to keep up with, well, buying yourself stuff that you might
Mm.
like.
Yeah.
And everything's really expensive
Right.
nowadays.
Yeah.
To
So probably one of the most valuable principles that I learned, especially as a young person, was the 10-10-10-70 principle. You know, I used to always hate this word budget. Okay. Still good to, list down what all your expenses are. But the simplified version was 10% I pay to myself for short-term savings, 10% long-term, 10% I would give to a charity, 70% I learned how to live within my means.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know some people say, well, I could never do that. But if you get disciplined about it, you certainly can do that. And George, what would you say is probably one of the most valuable lessons that you ever learned? Because again, you grew up
Yeah.
in Genistar. I mean, I remember you when you were just a little guy.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say is probably the most valuable thing that you learned?
Well, the 10-10-10-70 is a big one. It's one I use all the time. But actually, rule of 72 was one that kind of blew my mind
Yeah.
a little bit, because it was a bit like, your money should be working for you. Why is it in a bank? And it was that kind of realization of, hold on, I've been using a debit card my whole life. And hold on, I created a bank account when I was a child. I remember doing it. Why is it that I shouldn't have my money in a bank? Having that explained to me, the rule of 72, in that I should be doing smart investing, and having my money work for me
Yeah.
was massive.
So now that you brought up the rule of 72, explain it to us.
So it's the term of how it was, is how long it takes to double your money, essentially. And depending on the interest rates that you're getting. So if you've got 3% interest rates, you're putting £10,000 into a bank account, and you're getting 3% APR back, it's gonna take you 20 years to double your money.
Right.
So you want to get a better interest rate.
24 years.
24
right?
years.
Yeah, 24 years. Yeah.
But yeah, so you want to find a better interest rate than that, so you can just basically double your money quicker.
Yeah. And what's amazing is when you take that, you take 3, 6, 9%.
Yeah. And they all go into
3%
72.
at the end of 48 years, the 10,000 grows to 40,000. 6%, you would think you'd double your money, but you don't. You quadruple it.
Yeah.
Or as one guy told me once, he said you fourple it. Okay. And then on the other one at 12%, so you double that interest rate again, you go from 40 to 160. Have any idea what it might be, Harvey, at 12%?
200.
200,000? Very, very close. You just missed a comma. It's 2,560,000. And that's the reason why that all of our listeners to this podcast, it's so important that they get this understanding about the rule of 72. So we actually have a free ebook that we give to anyone. And it's got the 10 principles that I learned when I was your age, George. And those 10 principles took me from age 24, I was broke, to age 31, I was a millionaire. Now, Harvey, as you were in the office with us today and here in the studio, and we were chatting a little bit, and you're here getting some work experience, and I spent a little bit of time with you yesterday. I had a great time talking with you, a sharp young man. And you started asking me some questions, and that's what I said, hey, would you be our guest on the podcast, okay? And after we picked you up off the floor, after you passed out, no, not really, you started asking me some questions, and I said, why don't we do a podcast and give you and George an opportunity to maybe ask me a question, because I came from nothing and ended up becoming a millionaire, and I'd love to share those ideas and anything that you got. So the floor is open. I'm going to let you guys now do the podcast, okay?
I guess the first question you obviously would ask is, how did you make your first million? Because I know that you came from minus £10,000 net worth, I think you said. And then obviously 6 years later, you had $1 million.
Yeah.
What
So the first thing that I did was I started getting the knowledge, like in this book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom. I was so excited to learn that there's only 10 principles, because most of the financial books I was reading were like, like this. They were like the Bible or something,
Yellow pages.
And it was I didn't understand it. In fact, mathematics was actually my worst subject in school. I hated it. I loved history and all the art and lots of the creative things. I never did like maths. It just never made any sense to me. When I got into this business and I started doing this on a part-time basis, it was like it just took on a whole new meaning. Now I started originally in the USA. I did this for over 20 years in the USA, and then we moved here over 20 years ago to start the financial education company Genistar here. But I think that the first thing is mindset. Okay, so I grew up. I was orphaned as a kid, and for me, I always thought to become a millionaire must mean that I had to be born into the right family, be born on the right side of the tracks, be a blue blood, go to to Eton or Oxford or Cambridge or something. Okay, boy, if I could just go get an education and go become smart, or if I'd just been born in the right family. Okay. Why wasn't I born into the royal family? Okay. And so I think the first thing I had to realize is that I had to get into an opportunity. And when I was actually your age, when I was 17, I had a guy that he owned his own business. He owned a bank, and I used to work for him as a teenager. And I was mow his lawn and that type of thing. And I'll never forget sitting in his back garden. We were taking a little break, and I said to him, how do you get wealthy? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, Jeff, find something that you love to do and that you're good at, that's your natural ability, and find something that you can make money while you sleep.
There you go.
And I never forgot. I just never forgot that. Now, it took me until I was 24 to find that business opportunity. And then I started part-time, and I started using this 10-10-10-70 principle. In fact, my third year in the business, I made over 100,000. My fourth year, I made over $250,000. But instead of 10-10-10-70, I started saving 50% of my income. And we started putting money into investment funds. We got out of debt, quit paying all those crazy credit card interest rates, okay? And we started investing it, and then we started building a property portfolio. So age 24, you're absolutely right, minus 10,000. Age 31 was a millionaire. Not because I was smart, not because I was good looking, but I just followed these 10 principles.
How did you start networking with the right people that you could tell that the people you were talking to were the correct people that were going to help you in the future? Good question.
Yeah. Everybody will give you advice, especially broke people.
I like that.
Yeah. And I always say, you know what you get when you put two broke people together? You get broker. Okay. And so I began to learn that as I talked to people, I wasn't judging them, but I had to ask myself, do I really want my life to turn out like this person? It's kind of like a homeless guy. I'm not going to go to a homeless guy and say, hey, you got any points for me on how I can be successful? Okay. I'm not going to go to someone that's like super overweight and go, hey, can you give me some dietary tips? Okay. And so I think that it goes back to ask yourself, do I want my life to turn out like this person? All right. In addition to that, be very open to coaching and be very curious. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Curious George.
There you go.
Okay. Curious George was this little monkey that was always getting into mischief. Okay. And because he was always curious, he was always looking for things to do. And, why is this? Remember when you're a little kid, your famous question was why? Mm-hmm. Why?
They used to call me Curious George.
Did they?
For that reason, exactly.
That's funny. I did not know that. Yeah. And I think that's the key, even at my age. Okay, I mean, I'm very excited about life. You know why? because I want to continue to learn. And so I would say that, find some people, be very curious, ask lots of questions, and talk to people that, you'd like for their life, you'd like for your life to eventually turn out like theirs in some capacity.
Yeah. Another question I have is it's a little bit off topic, but yesterday you gave me pointers for how to sell, and it was 4 stages. I can't quite remember what they were, but
Yeah.
could you go through them and
Sure.
explain them like in reasonable amount of depth?
This was the F.O.R.M, F-O-R-M? Yeah, absolutely. So when I first got into the direct sales business, I was 19 years old. I was, I didn't know how to approach people. And for me, whenever I heard the word sales, I always thought of the guy that was like the double glazed sales guy that's going to come to your house, camp out, and never leave until you buy something. They're going to high pressure you. And I said, I do not want to be that kind of person. I don't like high pressure salespeople. I don't know anybody that does. Do you guys,
No. I actually used to work in the industry as a cold caller.
Yeah. That just never appealed to me.
That was when I was Harvey's age, but no,
Yeah.
it's something that was not rewarding.
So, so the very first thing that I learned was if you're interested in helping others, don't focus on the money, but focus on helping people. Okay. In fact, if our listeners are taking notes, here's the note that I'd like to say. Don't love money and use people. Love people and use money.
Yeah.
And so when you have that at the heart of your character, of your culture, if you will, and if you can get people to like you, trust you, and believe in you, and you're honest, okay, they'll do business with you. One of the best books that someone ever gave me is back when I was a teenager. My foster father gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. We actually spoke about it in podcast 2. That book changed my life. And I remember my foster father saying, Jeff, if you're going to get good at one thing, get good at dealing with people. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is really just about getting to know people, making a friend, and asking yourself, how can I help this person?
Yeah.
So this form that you're talking about is kind of a little bit of a formula on how to get to know other people. So let's say that I'm meeting you like I did yesterday. I began to talk to you about your family. Do you have any brothers and sisters? I already know your mom. Yeah. Okay. And then we started talking about your occupation. I already knew that you're a student, but I said to you, so Harvey, what is it that you have an interest in, and where do you want to go in your career? And you began to share with me some of the things that that you think about, or that you'd like to do. Mm. So if I'm just talking to someone, I'll say, so what is it that you do? And they'll say, well, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a policeman, I'm a fireman, I'm a cook, whatever it is. Great. And how long have you been doing that? And what'd you do before that? So these are just questions, a little bit like if you guys have heard of Columbo. Did you ever hear of Columbo? He's a detective, sure. And he asks great questions. Okay. And so a lot of it's asking questions. So the F is for family. The O is for occupation or what they do. The R is recreation. So you and I spoke yesterday about football. Yeah. Right? You like football. Who's your team?
West Ham.
West Ham. Who's the opposition?
Tottenham or Arsenal.
Tottenham or Arsenal. Okay.
Chelsea.
And what football team?
I'm Chelsea.
You're Chelsea. Okay. So again, if I was a football fan and you liked, you like Tottenham, you like Chelsea, I'd say, well, who's the best players? Yeah. What do you like best about football? How long you been following them? Did you ever play as a youngster? Mm-hmm. And what you're doing is you're making a friend before you give a presentation or before you move into, wanting something, okay? Yeah. The M on F.O.R.M, F-O-R-M, the M is for message. So I'm just using this as an example. If I wanted to ask you, for, do you know anybody that might be interested in earning some extra income? Before
Right.
I would ever ask that, I'd find out one or more of those three FOR, family, occupation, recreation, just about making a friend before you move on.
Does that really help you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it like the most important?
Do you know,
thing?
I got to tell you an example. Today, I was coming in early to the office today.
Yeah.
And I had about 15 minutes. I was a bit early, and there's a guy sitting there on a bench as I'm, kind of leading into the train station inside Waterloo Station, and he's got his uniform on for Southwest Rail, and I didn't see him, but he had in his pods, so he was listening to something, and I said, "You look like you're meditating over there," and then he pulled his pods out, and I said, "You having a good day?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I've been working night shift." And I said, "How do you like that?" He goes, I don't like night shift." And I said, "Well, how long you been doing this?" 20 years.
Wow.
"And do you enjoy it?" "Yeah, it's a job. It pays the bills." Okay. And so we were chatting, and I said, "Where do you live? And, do you have family here? What did you do before you worked for the train?" And I wasn't trying to sell him anything. I was just making a friend. And then he looked at his watch and he said, "I got a train to catch." And I said, "Yeah, so do I." So we're walking down to the train and we're continuing this conversation. He starts saying, "So where are you from?" You don't have you don't have a UK accent. I said, "No, I'm originally from America, but I've lived here for 20 years." And his name was Reg. And I said, "Where are you from, Reg?" He said, "Well, I'm from Nigeria." And so I was kind of kidding with him, and I said, "Hey, Reg," I said, "I just want you to know, don't tell anybody, but my real name is not Jeff. It's Olugbenga, which is Yoruba in Nigeria." That someone gave me that name, a friend of mine. Okay, and it actually means God has lifted me up. And he started laughing. He said, "Where'd you learn that from?" And so he started saying to me, about Olugbenga. We just started, we just built a friendship, a relationship. Now he gets on the same train as me. I just met the guy 8 minutes ago, right? And then I said to him, "Reg, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Would you ever be open to a career change?" I mean, he said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Might be." I said, "Well, tell you what, why don't we swap details? I don't know if you'd have any interest. Let me send you something and let's stay in touch."
Simple as.
Is that a good skill for a CEO to have?
For a CEO?
Yeah.
Well, that's how to become a CEO.
Yeah,
That's a good
true.
skill for anybody to have.
Just be personable.
Yeah.
Really, my takeaway.
That's right.
Just,
Yeah, make a friend.
Be nice at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
That's right.
And if you are honest and nice, then people will take a kin to you.
Yeah. There's a guy that has been a great friend of mine, great mentor, and he's so good at business and just the business principles. His name is Rabbi Daniel Lapin. I think I mentioned his name to you yesterday. And he always talks about, he said, whatever you do, look for a way and a reason to add value to other people's lives. And I'll never forget, I was listening to one of his recordings years ago, and he said, if you really want to help people, I tell you, if you really want to make friends with people, do something for their children. Okay?
100%.
You didn't see it, but I was talking to you yesterday, and I looked over at your mom. She was in the office. She had the biggest grin on her face. You know why? Here's her baby boy, and the CEO is talking to her baby boy, and I could tell it made her happy. I didn't do it for any ulterior motive. I did it because I truly am interested. And I think that that's the other key is sincerity. Yeah. People can tell a phony a mile away. So be sincere about it. I didn't expect, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to recruit you. I just think it's wonderful that you're a sharp young man. You want to learn about money, learn about business, learn about how to get into sales. And so it's, I think the key is just be truly interested in other people. And when you're younger, talking to a guy like me, okay, just treat them like you do. I mean, you're natural at it, okay? Treat me like you would your own dad, or in your case, granddad, okay? and that's how to make friends and influence people.
I think finance is a very fundamental part of our lives, especially as a young person. But financial education is obviously, like you said, isn't taught in school. So,
Mm.
how important to you is financial education, not in terms of Genistar, but just for general life as well?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, you mentioned earlier that you learned these principles from your mom and dad,
Mm.
right? You said the same thing. I know a lot of people say, well, it's the school's job to teach the kids. I don't think that it is. I certainly think that it can be compatible. But this discussion here, and I've been here for over 20 years, and the government said, yes, we're going to have financial education. And there's a little bit out there. There's some great charities out there, Young Enterprise that we support, great charity for kids, okay, helping them in entrepreneurship as well as how to get an education and money. But for the most part, in my opinion, it needs to be the parents. Now, here's the problem. If you have parents that are rubbish with money, they're going to teach their kids, but they're going to teach them, don't be like your parents, okay? So we're all examples to people, some good, some not so good, some what to do, some what not to do. And so I did not have a good example as parents. My parents were not good with money. But I learned it from mentors like myself. So I went to those people that I saw that were good with money, and I pulled it out of them and I hung around them. It's amazing how you'll become like the people that you hang around. And one of the most valuable things that was ever told to me was, Jeff, I want to help you. One of my mentors, Bob Safford Sr., said to me, I want to help you become a millionaire, not because of the money, but for the person. If you allow it to make you the person a better person for the person that you'll become, because it teaches you leadership skills, teaches you stewardship over your money, and teaches you, just to do sensible, common sense, but not common knowledge, and certainly not common practice. And when you get good with money, Harvey, it just changes your life. I saw a study recently that said 70% of all the divorces stem back to financial problems.
Yeah, wow. I saw that as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we all have to deal with money every single day. So doesn't it make sense? Get good with money. Whether it's paying your bus fare, buying groceries, paying the bills, going to university. I mean, it just, it takes money.
What advice would you then give to a young person trying to start a business?
Yeah. So for me, I now again, this may not be what people want to hear, but I'm just telling you what I did is I went to work for somebody else as an apprentice, if you will, and I learned that trade. So in my case, it was in financial services, and the person that mentored me, I learned the sales business. I learned how to make phone calls. I learned how to give presentations. I learned how to interact with people that were older, younger, middle age. It didn't matter. And then once I got that skill, that's when I started my own business. And what I think is so unique, George, is that when I'm just using this as an example. Let's say that because you work for us, okay? Let's say that you work for us and I never promote you.
Yeah.
Learn everything you can about the business. And if the business doesn't value you, then leave and go start your own business because now you've learned everything.
Okay. See what you're saying.
Okay. And so if someone, now here's the thing, I don't want to lose you as an employee because you're a great employee. But if I knew that your passion, that's just because of the kind of person I am, it's more of an abundance attitude than a I'm going to keep you type attitude. If I knew that, I would encourage you. I'd say, yeah, man, you go for it. But most people are going to want to keep you there for their own selfish principles. Yeah. And I would say, do something. That's why I love our business model, because we bring people in part-time so they can still keep their full-time job, make a living while they're getting rich. And really, kind of learn the business and see whether it's what they want to do or not, whether it's part-time or full-time.
That's good.
So, Harvey, do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask me?
If you could go back in time, would you change anything that you've done over your entire life regarding money, if anything at all?
Yeah, yeah. There's a great book. It's called The Road Less Stupid. And Keith Cunningham asked the question in the very opening of the book, and that is, write down your top 3 financial decisions that you wish you had not made. He calls it the stupid tax, okay? Or I like to call it your university fees, all right? So there's a couple things. One is, well, the first thing that we did right was that we got out of debt early on. So the first thing I would do is not get into debt. Okay, that's called the road less stupid. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't have gotten the credit cards. I wouldn't have got into a new car. I would have saved some money up and bought a nice used car and paid cash. And then I would have put the money into my savings account that I would have made on monthly payments and put that into savings so that whenever I wanted to upgrade or get a newer car, I would never buy, I used to buy new cars. And then I figured out that as soon as you drive it off the lot, you just lost 20% on it. Let somebody else pay the stupid tax, put 10,000 or 20,000 miles on it, and you get it for 20 to 50% off. And now you can put that money into your pension, your investments, that type of thing. Okay, so that would be one thing, is I never would have been buying. I'm sure if there's car dealers listening to this, they're not going to like that. Okay, and by the way, it doesn't mean that nobody should ever get a new car, but it's just understand the principles, and especially starting off. Back then, it was kind of like, hey, no money down, and it's only this much a month. And what it does, it gets you into this habit. You're not thinking about what the end price is, what the end cost is. You're thinking about my monthly payment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be one thing that I would say. Second thing I would do is, as I started making money, I started saving money. But as I started accumulating money, it was almost like moths to a light. I never had so many people in my life that wanted to borrow money. Okay, there's a proverb that basically says, don't co-sign, or don't sign a note for someone to borrow money. Otherwise, you're going to probably end up being the one paying for it. Yeah. And don't loan people money. This is another principle I learned, is that by the way, if you ever have someone that you don't want to see anymore, like a relative or a friend, loan them some money. Because you won't see them anymore, okay? Because there's this bad feeling with them, right? And so I can't tell you the number of people that I loaned money to, and all of a sudden they disappeared. Our relationship changed. So I would say to you and to anybody else listening to this, don't loan people money. Now, give them money. If you want to give it to them, but don't expect anything back, okay? So now I don't loan people money. All right, and please, nobody on the podcast, don't call to get money, okay? But recently, I had a close friend of mine had a difficult time, and they came to me and said, Jeff, can I borrow some money? I said, no, but I'll give you the money, but I don't want it to be paid back, okay? So there's times where you just bless people, and that's great. But my suggestion would be is don't loan people money, and don't co-sign a note. Is that a word that you got? Okay, that don't co-sign a note where it says, yes, you go make your monthly payments, but if you don't, I'm going to end up having it. Mm-hmm. I've had 3 or 4 of those before, and that I ended up, the bank calling me up and going, hey, you're going to pay. Okay, yeah. And then the third thing on the financial would be moths to a light. Hey, Jeff, we've got this new super duper idea, and you want to invest in our company because it's going to be the next big thing. And you're thinking, this is going to hit big. Okay. I've had about 4 of those, and none of them hit big. Okay. So I would say one of my favorite proverbs is, steady plodding brings prosperity. Hasty speculation brings poverty. If it looks too good to be true, if it's a get-rich-quick thing,
Yeah.
my advice is run as fast as you can, unless you just want to lose your money. That help?
That really does. Yes.
Great,
Awesome.
great. Well, listen, I hope that today's podcast has helped you. Thank you so much, Harvey, George. It's been great having you guys here. We'll have more of these, okay, where we have more young people on, especially as we get engagement online, and maybe we can, I'm sure that our creative media team is going to come up with something, whether it's on TikTok or whatever else it is, that, where people can actually ask questions, maybe have some more, interactive things.
Sure.
But it's been a real pleasure and honor, and I hope that I can be a little bit of a mentor to each of you. I hope that I can be a mentor and a father-like figure, especially to all the young people out there, because I can tell you, a guy coming from nothing, that you can actually become financially free if you just practice the right principles. Thanks again for joining us today on Financial Freedom for All. Have a wonderful day.